The battlefield was covered in smoke and broken machines. Fires burned in the distance. Alien warriors walked proudly among the wreckage of the defeated human army. The war was over, and the humans had lost. From her throne made of stone and bones, Queen Zarka sat tall, 8 feet of power and pride. Her skin was golden and glowing. Her eyes burned like red suns. Her voice shook the air when she spoke. "Bring me the last human alive." She shouted. 2 alien guards dragged a wounded human soldier forward. His uniform was torn, his face bloody, but his eyes were sharp. He stood with pride, even in chains. "This is the best your kind can offer?" Zarka laughed. Her voice echoed like thunder. "You are small, weak, and slow. You lose battles and beg for peace. What makes you think your kind is worthy to stand beside me?" The alien soldiers around her laughed too. The human, Jack, didn't speak at first. He looked around at the guards, the broken weapons, the queen towering above him. Then he smiled. "You talk a lot for someone who seems afraid to test me." A silence fell. Everyone turned to Jack, shocked. Did this tiny human just challenge the queen? Zarka's eyes narrowed. "Afraid? Of what? You?" Jack raised his head. "I've seen queens, monsters, and beasts, but none of them talk this much before showing their strength. So yes, maybe you're afraid. Or maybe you just don't. Want to know what happens if a human touches your heart?" The room went quiet. You could hear the wind outside. Even the alien guards didn't know whether to laugh or run. Zarka stood slowly. Her shadow covered Jack completely. She walked down the stone steps toward him. Each step felt like the earth shaking. "I could crush you like an insect," she growled. "But you haven't," Jack replied. She stopped, standing only a few inches from him now. Her golden body radiated heat and power. Jack looked up at her without fear. Zarka leaned down, her voice soft but dangerous. "You think a human could ever breed with me? That your body could match mine? Don't make me laugh." Jack shrugged. "Try me." That was it. The entire room gasped. One of the alien generals stepped forward. "My queen! He insults you. Let us kill him." But Zarka raised her hand. "No." She stared into Jack's eyes. Something strange was in his gaze. Not just courage, but something deeper. Calm. Understanding. For the first time in her life, Queen Zarka didn't know what to say. She turned her back and walked to her throne. After a long pause, she spoke again. "Take him to my private chambers. I will deal with this personally." Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised, but he didn't resist. The guards looked confused, but they followed orders. As he was taken away, Zarka sat back down on her throne. Her generals stood silently. One of them finally asked, "My queen, are you really going to, with a human?" She didn't answer, but her eyes stayed fixed on the door Jack had just passed through. Later that night, in a grand room filled with glowing crystals and soft alien music, Jack sat on a long seat. His wounds had been treated. He wore a simple robe given by the guards, but his mind was alert. The door opened. Queen Zarka walked in, alone. Jack stood up. She stared at him for a long time. No one spoke. Finally she said, "You are different from the others. I don't know if I should kill you or keep you." Jack smiled slightly. "You'll figure it out." Zarka tilted her head. "Do you know what you've done? No man, alien or human, has ever spoken to me like that." "Maybe that's why you're so lonely," Jack said, not unkindly. That word lonely hit her like a blade. She didn't show it, but something shifted in her eyes. Zarka stepped closer. "Don't think you've impressed me yet, human. I could end your life in 1 second." "I believe you," Jack said calmly. "But if you were going to, you already would have." The queen stopped. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Then she whispered, more to herself than to him, "Why am I not killing you?" The doors slammed shut behind him. Jack stood alone in a glowing room that didn't feel like a prison. There were no chains, no guards, only silence, and the faint scent of flowers he couldn't name. He touched the strange robe. They gave him, soft, too soft for a prisoner. This isn't a cell, he muttered to himself. But it wasn't freedom either. Everything in the room felt alive. Walls, made of smooth stone that pulsed gently, as if breathing. Lights hanging like jellyfish drifted near the ceiling. He walked slowly, alert, scanning every corner. He had seen alien prisons. This was something else. Then the silence broke. The floor vibrated slightly. A deep, heavy sound. Footsteps. The door opened without warning, and there she stood. Queen Jarka. She had removed her crown. Her long cloak dragged behind her, made of something that shimmered like fire and water. But she was still massive, 8 feet of muscle, beauty, and power. Jack didn't move. Neither did she. For a long time they just looked at each other. "You're not afraid," she said quietly. Jack shrugged. "You brought me to your room, not your dungeon. Should I be?" Jarka walked slowly toward him. Her eyes stayed locked. On his, most prisoners scream, most warriors beg. You talk back, laugh. Even now you act like you are my equal. "I don't need to be your equal," Jack said. "I just need to be real." Her steps stopped. Those words hit harder than a weapon. No one had spoken to her like that before. For centuries, alien generals praised her, bowed to her, feared her, but no one had dared to speak like Jack just did. "Do you think this is some game?" she asked, but her voice was softer now. Jack took a slow breath. "No, I think you're curious. I think you brought me here because something in you is asking questions, and maybe you're tired of hearing lies." Jarka's lips tightened, not in anger, but in thought. "You are strange," she said finally. "Your body is weak, your size is small, your power is almost nothing. Yet my heart doesn't calm around you." Jack smiled. "Maybe power isn't always size or strength." Jarka turned her back to him, walking to a glowing table filled with strange crystal bottles. "You humans confuse me." Jack moved slowly, not toward her, but around the room. "I've studied your people. You come from a warrior race, you lead with pride. But even warriors need peace. Even queens need someone who listens." That word, listens. No one listened to her. They obeyed, or feared, or ran. She poured a glowing blue drink into a cup and handed it to him. "Drink." He took it, examined the glass, then looked at her. "Is it poison?" Her golden eyes flashed. "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be gone." Jack sipped. It was sweet like honey mixed with starlight. His eyes widened slightly. Jarka smirked. "See, you humans always expect the worst. Maybe you should start expecting the unexpected." Jack raised his glass. "Like being treated kindly by a giant alien queen?" She almost laughed, but didn't. Instead, she asked something even more surprising. "Do you find me ugly?" Jack paused. "No," he said clearly. "I think you're terrifying, but not ugly." Jarka looked away. "You speak too easily. I speak the truth." She turned to him sharply. "Then tell me this, do you think a human and someone like me could ever?" She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Jack looked at her carefully. "You're not asking about breeding, you're asking about trust." Now she was the one caught off guard. He was right. It wasn't about the body, it was something deeper. Something neither of them had planned. Before she could answer, the chamber door burst open. A royal advisor stepped in, eyes wide with panic. "My queen, there are rumors. Your people believe you're considering the human as a mate." Jarka turned slowly, her voice low and sharp. "Let them whisper." The advisor froze. "But leave us," she commanded. He bowed quickly and ran out. When the door closed again, silence returned. Jarka sat down, her long legs folding beneath her like a lioness. Jack stood across from her. "Are you really considering He asked softly. She stared at him. Then she said something no one ever imagined. The Queen would say to a human, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to find out." It started with a dream, not a battle, not blood, not victory, but warmth, and a human's hand reaching for hers. Queen Jarka woke with a sharp gasp. Her golden skin was damp with sweat, her chest rising fast. She touched her heart. It was racing. For a warrior queen, fear was unknown. Yet now, something inside her felt wrong. Or maybe knew. She stood from her bed and walked to the mirror. The image that stared back at her was not the same queen her people feared. Her eyes looked softer. Her lips parted slightly as if waiting for words. And then she whispered the name. Jack. She froze. Why had she said it? She shook her head, trying to erase the sound from her mind. But it stayed. Just like his face. Just like his voice. You're not as alone as you think. That day, she didn't summon her generals. She didn't train. Instead, she stayed in her private chamber, watching him from a screen. Jack sat in the garden she allowed him to visit. He was laughing, teaching her alien guards a human game using pebbles. The guards, once cold and strict, now smiled around. Him, what is it about you? She muttered. Behind her, an old royal healer entered silently. His skin was gray, his horns curled, and his eyes wise. My queen, he said gently, you have not left your chambers in 2 days. I don't need to explain myself. No, the healer said, bowing, but I can see the signs. I've served 5 queens before you. I know the symptoms. Jarka turned sharply. What symptoms? The healer hesitated. Then he said it. You are entering the bonding phase. She stared at him. That's impossible. It only happens once in a queen's life. When her heart begins to choose a mate, it cannot be stopped. Jarka laughed, but it sounded weak. A human? A mate? Never. The healer placed a hand on his chest. It is not the body that chooses, my queen. It is the soul. Before she could respond, he left. Jarka stood frozen, her fists shaking. No, this cannot be real. Meanwhile, Jack sat near a small alien tree, looking up at the sky. The 2 suns above were setting. The alien world was beautiful, but quiet. Too quiet. He noticed the guards acting strange. They were polite now. One of them finally spoke. The queen hasn't been herself. You changed something. Jack smiled softly. I don't want to change her. Just understand her. The guard stared at him. No one has ever tried. That night, Queen Jarka tried to meditate. Her body burned, not with illness, but with longing. Her mind screamed that this was wrong. But her heart betrayed her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his dot. She finally stood up and whispered to the shadows, What have you done to me, human? In a hidden chamber below the palace, the alien generals gathered. The queen is distracted, one growled. She barely speaks to us. This human, he's poisoning her mind. We must act, another said, before she makes a mistake. That could destroy our bloodline. A silent agreement passed between them. If Queen Jarka would not end the human, they would. That same night, Jack was returning from the garden when he heard a sound, a hiss, then a flash. He jumped back. As a blade slashed through the air where his head had been, 3 masked figures surrounded him. No warnings. No questions. Only death. Jack dodged, rolled, and grabbed a broken pipe. He wasn't a match in strength, but he had speed and a soldier's mind. He fought hard, but he was outnumbered. One blade cut across his shoulder. Another hit his leg. He fell. The assassins raised their weapons. Suddenly, stop. The voice roared like thunder. Queen Jarka appeared in a golden blaze of fury. With one wave of her hand, she threw the attackers into the wall like dolls. She rushed to Jack, dropped to her knees, and pulled him close. He looked up, blood on his lip. Guess I made a few enemies. Her hands trembled as she held him. They will pay. But why did you come? Jack asked weakly. Jarka looked into his eyes. For once, there was no pride. No anger, only fear. Fear of losing him. She whispered the words she never thought she'd say. Because I don't want you to die. The walls of the ancient temple whispered secrets. Queen Jarka walked slowly, her steps echoing through the long dark corridor. No guards, no servants. Only silence. And dust older than her empire. She had not stepped inside this place since her coronation. The flames in the crystal lanterns lit themselves as she passed. The air felt heavy, alive. At the end of the path, she reached a stone door, carved with alien symbols only royals could read. She placed her hand on the center. It glowed. The door slid open. Inside the sacred chamber, the air shimmered. Strange lights danced in the air like spirits. In the center of the room stood a tall silver pillar, the bonding pillar. The queen stepped forward, her heart pounding. There, carved in glowing letters, were the ancient words. A queen's body obeys the law, but her soul obeys the bond. Jarka stared at it. Her chest tightened. This was real. It wasn't sickness. It wasn't weakness. It was the beginning of a bond, and it was forming. With a human. Back in the royal garden, Jack sat quietly. His arm was bandaged. His leg ached from the attack, but his mind wasn't focused on pain. He kept replaying the moment in his head when the queen held him. When her voice cracked when she said, I don't want you to die. Those words didn't sound like a queen giving an order. They sounded like something else. Something real. Jack looked up at the sky. What are you hiding, Jarka? At that same moment, the queen stood before the bonding pillar. She closed her eyes and placed both hands on the cold silver surface. Suddenly, the pillar came alive. A glowing light circled around her body, scanning her. Then, it spoke in her mind. The bond has begun. The queen's heart has chosen. The body will follow. Jarka gasped and stepped back. No, I didn't choose. This bond is wrong. He's a human. The voice replied, the soul does not follow rules. She fell to her knees for the first time in her life. She didn't know who she was anymore. Meanwhile, deep below the palace, the alien generals gathered again. Our queen has entered the temple. One said coldly, she seeks answers from the old code. Another replied, she's falling for him. They all stared at the hologram showing Jack's face. Then we have no choice, the leader whispered. If the bond completes, she becomes one with him. Our race loses its bloodline. She must be stopped before it's too late. That night, Queen Jarka returned to her chambers. She stood in front of the mirror again, but now she saw a different reflection. Not a queen, not a warrior, but a woman. Changing. The strange heat in her body returned, stronger now. Her skin glowed softly. Her heart beat faster every time she thought of Jack. She turned sharply. I must end this. Minutes later, Jack's door opened. He looked up and saw her. Jarka stepped inside, her eyes burning with something he couldn't read. Not rage, not pride. Something deeper. I went to the temple, she said. Jack stood slowly. Why? To find out what's happening to me. Jack didn't speak. He waited. The bond, she said. It's real. Jack's eyebrows raised slightly. What does it mean? Jarka looked away. It means, my soul is choosing you. Not my mind. Not my duty. Just you. Jack walked closer. And what do you choose? She looked into his eyes. I don't know, she whispered. I've killed armies. I've crushed kings. But I don't know how to stop this. Jack gently reached out and placed his hand over hers. Maybe you don't have to stop it. Jarka didn't pull away. Her hand stayed in his. And for the first time since she became queen, she didn't feel alone. But outside the door, in the shadows, someone was watching. One of the generals turned away. activated his wristcom, and whispered, "The bond is real. Prepare the weapon. Tomorrow, the human dies." The bed was too quiet. Queen Jarka sat at the edge, her long golden fingers gripping the soft sheets. The early morning light slipped through the tall windows of her private chamber, but she did not move. She wasn't wearing her armor. She wasn't wearing her crown. She wasn't the queen this morning. She was just confused and trembling. Her hand slowly touched her own chest. Her heart still beat fast. Her body still burned, but not from fever, from something else. From what happened last night. Hours earlier. Jarka had stood before Jack, ready to end it, to reject the bond, to push him away. But then he held her hand, and she didn't let go. 1 second turned into a minute. A breath became a moment too long. And then she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't royal. It wasn't proper. It was real. Her lips, used only for commands, had found silence against his. Her body, built for war, had melted against his chest. She had known power, but never this. Now, in the morning light, she could still feel the warmth of his hands, the way he held her as if she was fragile. As if she mattered, Jarka stood slowly and walked to the mirror. Her eyes were glowing softly. Her skin shimmered like fire under her skin. And then, something caught her breath. A tiny glow pulsed just below her navel. The mark of life. Her heart stopped. "No," she whispered, but the truth was there. She was pregnant. Jack stood outside in the garden, watching the sky. He hadn't seen Jarka since last night. He didn't know what she was thinking or feeling, but he knew one thing: something between them had changed forever. He placed his hand on the small tree they planted together a few days ago. A simple gesture, but it felt like hope. Then he heard footsteps. Jarka appeared. She walked slowly toward him, her face unreadable. Jack stood straight, sensing something serious. She stopped only a few steps away from him. "There's something I must tell you," she said. He nodded. "I'm listening." Jarka struggled to find the words. For the first time she looked uncertain. Finally she whispered, "You gave me life." Jack blinked. "What do you mean?" She took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. A soft glow pulsed under his fingers. Jack's eyes widened. "You're—" She nodded, "with child." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Jack finally whispered, "But I thought humans and your kind couldn't." "Only through the bond," she said. "And the bond has chosen." Jack looked into her eyes. "And what now?" Before she could answer, a loud blast rocked the garden. Boom. Walls cracked. Guards screamed. Smoke rose from the palace gates. Jarka turned sharply. "They're here." The royal advisor ran to them. "My queen, the generals have declared you unfit to rule. They say the human corrupted your mind and bloodline." Jarka's body lit with golden energy. "So they move against me." Jack stepped forward. "Let me fight." She looked at him, heart racing. "No, you're the target." Another explosion shook the palace. She grabbed his arm. "Follow me. We must get you to safety. You carry more than just yourself now." But someone else was already watching from the palace walls. A high-ranking general, face hidden behind armor, activated a deadly alien weapon. It locked onto Jack's signal. He smiled cruelly and whispered, "The queen may carry his child, but not for long." The palace burned. Red flames danced in the sky. Smoke swallowed the towers. Sirens cried like ghosts across the capital. Inside the queen's chamber, all was quiet. Too quiet. Jarka stood in front of a mirror, gripping the edge of a table. Her body shook not from fear, but from rage. Outside, her own people were firing on her palace. Her own generals had turned, and all because of one thing, one moment, one human. One child growing inside her. Jack stood beside her, watching through the window as armored ships flew over the royal walls. Explosions echoed below. They've gone mad, he said quietly. Jarka nodded, jaw tight. No, they've gone blind. They fear change more than death. She turned to him, her golden eyes glowing. They would rather burn the future than share it with your kind. Jack stepped closer. Then we don't give them a choice. Jarka paused. You would fight for me? For this child? Jack didn't blink. No, I'd fight for what's right. And you finally are. At the gates of the city, thousands of alien soldiers marched. General Caver stood at the front. His blade raised high. He shouted, "The queen has fallen. The human has poisoned her blood. For our race we march." They stormed forward, inside the palace. Jarka gathered her personal guards. Only a few remained loyal. We're outnumbered, said one of them. Jarka nodded, but not outwilled. Then she turned to Jack. You don't have to stay, Jack smiled. Yes, I do, because if I don't, I'll never forgive myself. She looked at him, surprised again by this human. He had no weapons, no armor, no royal blood. Yet he stood beside her when everyone else ran. The battle began at the palace gates. Explosions rocked the floor. Tsar Ka charged first, golden energy blasting from her arms, knocking enemies back like paper. Jack moved behind her, helping wounded guards, using alien weapons he barely understood, but fast enough to matter. Then, a sniper's beam fired, straight toward Jarka. Jarka! Down! Jack shouted. She turned. Too slow. Jack threw himself in front of her. Boom! The shot hit his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Jack! Jarka ran to him, lifting him into her arms. Blood flowed from his wound. His eyes blinked weakly. Told you I'd fight. She pressed her forehead to his. Why human? Why would you throw yourself for me? Jack smiled, even in pain. Because I love what you're becoming. Jarka stood, holding Jack in her arms, fury burning through her veins. Her golden body flared with pure energy, more powerful than ever before. The generals watching from above gasped. She's evolving, a loyal advisor whispered. The child. It's changing her power. Jarka raised her hand and shouted to the sky. You tried to kill hope, but you made me stronger. She fired a wave of golden light that cracked the ground and sent dozens of soldiers flying. Back in the medic room, Jack lay still. Alien healers worked quickly. His heart was slowing. The energy blast had burned deep, but suddenly his eyes opened. Jarka entered, kneeling at his side. I'm still here, he whispered. Tears filled her eyes, something she never knew her body could make. She pressed his hand to her stomach. Our child is strong, she said softly. Just like you. Meanwhile, the rebel generals retreated. Their plan failed, their power broken. But one whispered into his fall back. But this isn't over. That night, the fires were gone. The palace stood damaged but not broken. And inside, Queen Jarka sat beside Jack, her hand in his. For the first time, her crown was not on her head, but resting beside his pillow. I never believed in peace, she whispered, until a human made me fight for it. The stars outside the window were silent, but inside the palace, the queen screamed, not in war, not in rage, but in labor. Jack gripped her hand tightly. Sweat covered her golden skin. Her body, so strong, so feared across galaxies, now trembled with pain. And yet she refused to cry out again. Jarka was still a queen, even now. Breathe, Jack whispered, his own voice shaking. You're almost there. Alien healers rushed around them, speaking in sharp clicks and fast whispers. The child was coming faster than expected, too fast for their science to understand. She's reacting to the human DNA. One healer said, the child's power is already forming. Jarka clenched her teeth, then let the universe feel it. Outside the palace walls, storms gathered, not clouds but ships. Dozens of rebel warships broke through the atmosphere. General Caver's voice echoed across the skies. The queen will not rule with a half-blood child. End this now. Missiles launched. Inside the birthing chamber, Jack heard the explosions begin again. He turned to the guards. They're back. One guard shook his head. If they reach this room, they won't, Jack said, standing. His body was still healing. Pain filled his side. But he didn't hesitate. He looked at Jarka. She was barely conscious, still fighting, still protecting, and now he would do the same. Jack ran into the halls. Flames lit the marble floors. He picked up a fallen guard's rifle. Strange, heavy, but he learned fast. He fired once, hit a rebel soldier in the leg. Twice blasted open a gate. Then, standing at the top of the palace steps, he shouted with everything inside him, "You want to kill a child who hasn't even taken a breath? Then come through me." The rebel soldiers paused. One of them said, "He's just a human." Another whispered, "Then why is the queen risking everything for him?" They hesitated. That hesitation was all the time Jack needed. Behind him, a roar shook the skies. Back in the chamber, the child was born. Small, but glowing, not gold. Not pink. Silver. Its cry sounded like a song and a storm at the same time. The healers dropped to their knees. "It is the chosen one." Jarka opened her eyes. She saw the child, and then she smiled. A real, soft smile. The kind she never thought she'd wear. The sky outside burst open. Jarka rose from the bed, her energy returning instantly. Her arms now held her child. She floated outside the palace walls, Jack at her side. The rebel fleet stopped mid-air. "What is this?" "A soldier," whispered Zhar. Single quotes. Ka raised the child high. The skies lit up with silver lightning, and every ship shut down. One by one, the child's power had awakened. Not a weapon, not a soldier, but a new future. General Caver watched from a broken cruiser, his face pale. "We lost," he whispered. Later that night, the queen stood before her people. Her voice calm, her words sharp. "You feared the bond. You feared the child. But today you saw the truth." She held up the baby in one arm and Jack's hand in the other. "This is not the end of our bloodline. This is the beginning of a new one, a stronger one, a united one." The crowd, alien and human, bowed together. For the first time. In the quiet of the night, in the garden they once walked alone, Jack held the child while Jarka sat beside him. "I used to laugh at the idea of breeding with a human," she whispered. Jack smirked. "You did more than breed." She smiled softly. "I built an empire with one."